Welcome back to Newsmax Now. So pleased to be joined now by Newsmax White House correspondent John Gizzi, also our chief political columnist at Newsmax.com. John, you're looking good from Washington, D.C., and you've got a new column on Newsmax.com about the Reverend Senator Pinckney, slain in that shooting in Charleston last Wednesday night. You say the Reverend, who also spent time as a state senator, always was reaching out to his Republican colleagues to talk about different issues and truly was a model of bipartisanship. Mindful of that, is anything good going to come out of this shooting and the passing of the Reverend Pinckney?
I think so. In the sense, everyone that I've talked to in South Carolina mourns the death of the man they simply called Clem. Senator Pinckney was someone who was always reaching out to Republicans on issues, ranging from body cameras to police and going on to divestiture from Iran and a stronger relation between the Palmetto State and Israel. He also helped Republicans win appointment to key positions. Now, if anything does come up, particularly in the area of mental health, which is what is most talked about in the wake of this tragedy, one will see legislation come out. It will be bipartisan, and I predict it will be called the Clementa Pinckney legislation.
And yet the talk and the media focus of the dominant media culture has been on the Confederate flag, which some years ago was moved from the Capitol Dome in Columbia to a separate type of historic exhibit on the Capitol grounds in Columbia. And we've already heard that one of the state legislators is drawing up a bill demanding that Confederate campaign flag, that battle flag, be moved from the South Carolina grounds. Is this an honest groundswell grassroots, or is this again an example of the left, quote, never letting a crisis go to waste?
Well, insufficient information at this point, J.D. However, I would point out something. The late Governor Carroll Campbell, conservative Republican, worked out the compromise that took the flag down but put it where it was displayed. So it's not flown openly. As you say, it's just displayed where people who want to see it can see it. Now, that was something that a quarter century ago assuaged those who said tear it down, or those who said wear it as if South Carolina was going into battle again. It should be pointed out, I interviewed Mike Campbell, the late governor's son, who's now a member of the South Carolina Workers' Compensation Board. His appointment was secured in part with the support of Senator Clem Pinckney, and I have a feeling that people understanding the compromise that led to the flag where it is will respect that and move on. We'll see.
And it is interesting to note that that Southern Confederate campaign flag was not put on the dome in Columbia again after the Civil War, I believe until 1962. And of course, 1962 in South Carolina politics was an interesting year. Correct me if I'm wrong, John, but a man who became my colleague in the Congress of the United States, or I joined him there, Floyd Spence, I believe, was elected as a Republican to the state legislature from West Columbia in the year 1962. That was almost unheard of in what was then a very solidly Democratic state there in South Carolina.
That is absolutely correct. Floyd Spence, whose seat is now held by your colleague and friend Joe Wilson, was one of the trailblazers for Republican from the Columbia area. But it should also be pointed out that the governor who approved the flag flying in his final year in the State House was a Democrat, Ernest Hollings, who later went on to serve with distinction in the United States Senate.
And of course ran for president, I believe if memory serves, back in 1984, emphasizing the
That's
F,
correct.
Ernest Fritz Hollings, kind of an interesting name there from the low country of South Carolina. A couple of other notes on the Confederate flag. As I mentioned Friday night in a discussion on Newsmax Prime, it should be noted that Arizona, the state I represented in the United States Congress, on a cemetery, a veterans cemetery in close proximity to the state capitol, there is flying the stars and bars, not that campaign flag, but another Confederate flag. Because of historical distinction. The Battle of Picacho Peak, about an hour south of Phoenix, that was a Civil War battle during territorial days. Might we expect the left to pick this up and move from South Carolina to other locations where the Confederate flag may be flown for historic reasons? About 20 seconds to answer, John.
All right. It wouldn't surprise me, given the history that I have covered, you have seen, and different states have experienced. But it should be remembered, we are not Russia. We are not a totalitarian country in which history is being rewritten, just as the Russians right now are making a documentary film totally justifying Moscow sending in tanks to Czechoslovakia.
Yep, we have freedom of thought here, and we'll have more.